Hi, it's Tim Reagan here, and I've been thinking a lot about this talk that I'm going to give, going gig, leveraging the free agent workforce in your organization. And I originally presented this a couple of years back to a group of HR people through an event called Disrupt HR, which is the local chapter. I was presenting to the local Ottawa chapter of this national organization. But as we start to think about what life looks like post-COVID, and once we start to get the economy kind of getting back up to hopefully, close to full speed, I believe that this idea here is going to have a lot of currency, which is really about how to reimagine your organization for much greater agility and shape-shifting characteristics. So that's what this talk is about, and I just wanted to give you that little sort of context for why I've been revisiting this talk, and to give you a little bit more of the background behind it. This is going to come in around 15 minutes or so. So without further ado, let me shrink myself and get on with the topic at hand. So here's a few quotes or statements that you're probably familiar with. GM a number of years ago said that the auto sector will change more in the next 5 to 10 years than in the previous 50 years. That's a few years old as a statement, and certainly that is definitely happening right now in the auto sector, with a number of different things coming at it. Here's another one: 65% of those entering grade 4 today will be employed in jobs or industries that don't currently exist. And that's a study from 2015. So again, that's a few years old. Now, I'm sure none of this is lost on you. There will be increased turbulence going forward. There will be more disruptions. And if anything, COVID and the global pandemic just kind of tends to bring that into sharp focus for the moment. But the note of everything else that is driving turbulence: technology, outsourcing, demographics, global competition, automation, disruption in the business models. So that's the landscape, that's the world that we all live in. And what this really means is that our people and our organizations need to be much more agile, adaptable, experimental, and resilient to shock. And HR's role in that is to really help build an agile workforce in an adaptive organization. So an agile people and an adaptive organization. So the question then becomes, well, how do you actually go about doing that? So the organizational design question is about how to continue to deliver short-term performance while developing the adaptability to respond more quickly to unknown conditions in the future. So think about that. We need to do two things simultaneously. One is that we need to continue to deliver that short-term performance, and that will be challenged even more now in the post-COVID days, because our performance has gone to heck in a handbasket because of the global shutdown and the social distancing and the things we're going to have to do to design our businesses to get back into business. So we've got to continually be able to deliver short-term performance, and at the same time developing the adaptability in the fundamentals of our organization. So the question is really, how does one go about doing that? Now, it's important to think about the employee workforce, because that is the main concept that our organizations are primarily built around. And the employee workforce concept is an industrial age design, and the HR toolkit that has been developed over the past 150 years is still pretty much optimized to around managing that type of a workforce. And that means that it operates best when there's conformity of work, predictability of conditions, and at best, only slow, steady change. And maybe, given the focus on the car here, this is a really good analogy here to think about. Think about you spending decades and decades building up an incredible set of tools and arrays and aids so that you can work on any gasoline-powered car. and you've got all the templates, you've got all the tools, you've got all the different things to do, and your garage is optimized for the construction of, or the tearing down and building up and tuning of gasoline vehicles, of internal combustion engine vehicles. And suddenly the next car that rolls into your garage is somebody who brings in their electric car, their Tesla, and guess what? Suddenly your tools don't fit. None of the spark plug wrenches are valuable anymore because it doesn't have spark plugs. It doesn't have a bunch of the basic fundamental elements that the new car has, that the electric car has versus the internal combustion engine. And the analogy I'm making here is that that's kind of what our workforces are like. We have designed workforces around an employee workforce. We've designed all of our tools, all of our performance attributes, all of our systems primarily around the concept of your workforce being made up of primarily or a huge proportion of employees versus any other kind of labor. And so, and unfortunately, it is, again, those toolkit is based around the belief that there is conformity of work, there's predictability of conditions, and very slow, steady change. So let's shift now. Contractors, consultants, freelancers, what I call free agents. We've always used free agents as an ad hoc response to short-term needs. So what we want to now think about is how do we evolve those free agents into more of a functioning workforce platform? And by doing that, that provides the promise of huge gains in organizational adaptability. But to deliver on that, you're going to have to operate quite differently and build new tools. So again, this is the analogy of I can't use my internal combustion engine tools. I need to have a new set of tools for very different kind of workforce. So the design goal is really a blended workforce of full-time employees and on-demand free agents, and importantly, knowing when and where to use one versus the other, and knowing how to gracefully shift between them. So it really is workforce design, and it must be championed and involve HR along with the rest of the senior management team. So how do you do that? Well, here's the plan, and I'm, as a business engineer, fundamentally, I'm all about the pragmatic step-by-step plan that is going to get the job done. So it's nice to have the big vision, but how do we actually get this job done? So here's a 7-step plan that delivers the short-term targeted performance, and it also lays a path to that much greater organizational adaptability that we're seeking. So the first thing is you need to pick an internal business partner, and together you want to pick a very well-defined performance target to focus on. And in picking your internal partner, you want to find one that is willing to experiment and is driven to make serious performance gains. You want to choose a business critical target where your combined efforts matter. And so here we're probably looking for a baseline of seeking at least 20% performance in some business critical or mission critical performance target. Because if it's not that big a leap, if it's not at least a 20% improvement, then it's not going to get the focus and attention that it really deserves and needs to, to really put this effort in place. Now, within this bounded experiment that we've now decided on in step 1 of picking the target and picking the internal business partner, what we now want to do is embrace the team, and we want to provide them the latitude and the tools to help them identify and remove the roadblocks that are holding back performance. So I envision this as a turbocharger, and imagine if you had a turbocharger that you could move around your organization and bolt it in for 6 months at a time, and in that time it's going to dramatically boost that performance indicator that part of the business. And that's really what we're doing. But in our case, what the turbocharger looks like is it is really about laying out the team. It is about developing the team in terms of building them into a high-performing team, giving them the latitude to make decisions about how they do the work in that part of the business, and giving them the latitude and the tools and the instruction to help them streamline, automate, or otherwise eliminate parts of the work environment that don't add value and that are getting in the way of getting the kind of performance that we're looking at. So we're not getting a performance boost through throwing more resources at it. We're getting a performance boost through streamlining the business and better engaging the team by giving them the tools and the latitude to make decisions about how to run that part of the business. And if you focus on this for 2 consecutive quarters, so about 26 weeks, you will be able to deliver typically something between the order of 15 to 40% performance in that part of the business. Now, that alone is going to make this project, a candidate for a bit of hero work. By delivering this, you're already the HR person and the internal business partner are already sort of seen as heroes. And what you really want to do, though, is while you've got that goodwill from the initial performance gains, you want to leverage that to promote the long-term design strategy of your agile workforce in an adaptive organization. So what I'm really saying here is the point of this was not just the performance. That's the part that gets you into the game and it allows the experiments to continue. What you really are wanting to do now is build off of that initial win to use that to reinforce the idea of doing more and more of these kinds of projects. And here was the real point of this bounded experiment, the single bounded experiment. You now know a lot more about the inner workings of this part of the organization and what it takes in terms of human and physical capital to deliver the desired performance outcomes. So what has your turbocharging activity led to? Well, you've now got greater clarity about the links between your performance and your human and physical inputs. You've established the baseline performance that is available with the current set of resources. And you've got a lot of fresh thinking into the performance scaling with either employees with, the own option or free agents, which is the rent option. Because as you've been going through these, you've started to see which parts of the work that needs to get done can be done by who. You're starting to ask a deeper set of questions about what's the best way for us as an organization to do this? Is it through having this done by employees, or is this something that could be outsourceable through a free agent concept? So you now know the current baseline performance. You've got the performance scaling factors, and you're starting to have some pretty accurate insights on rent versus own options. So you're developing really clear insights into how performance scales in this part of the business through human efforts, regardless of how you source those humans. So what you've really got is you've got the data to support informed rent versus own decisions when you want to scale performance. But of course, we're not really done yet. Now you go out and you find another internal business partner and you target another performance improvement and you run through the turbocharging blueprint, and then you do it again, and then you do it again, and then you do it again. And what you're really doing is by moving your turbocharger around the organization, engaging different business partners, you're capturing a huge amount of data, team performance insights, work practices, work process improvements, and the like. And that's all data for your new business system on workforce inputs and performance outcomes. Now, what is this all leading to? What you've now done is you're developing and have developed some deep insights into effectively leveraging a free agent workforce as a performance scaling overlay to your existing employee workforce. And you have a toolkit now for helping the leadership design and implement powerful adaptive strategies. So as you fast forward a few years, what you're now able to do is you're able to rapidly engage and disengage highly qualified free agents within your blended workforce. And that has now become a routine strategic response to the organization's continual need for adaptability. So you've basically got an extra set of tricks, an extra bag of tricks up your sleeve in terms of running your organization that gives you the ability to switch from, evolve from a fixed cost, essentially a fixed cost labor force, of the own version in terms of employees, into more of a variable cost model that I can dial up and dial down by leveraging my free agents. So, but this is not really a story about free agents. It's really fundamentally about doing a few day-to-day things differently, which is all about your partnering and targeting, team development, baselining performance standards, and data collection and systematization. And it's worth repeating here Charles Darwin quote, "It's not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent that survives. It's the one that is most adaptable to change." And most importantly, this approach that we've just gone through, it's not disruptive, or it's minimally disruptive to the organization. It's not a big end-to-end thing. It's a very bounded, step-by-step process through your organization that is actually delivering immediate performance gains, and longer term, it is designing in much greater organizational adaptability. So delivering a truly agile blended workforce now reinforces the value that HR can bring as a strategic partner to the organization. And I like to end with this quote from George Bernard Shaw. "The reasonable man adapts himself to the world. The unreasonable one persists in trying to adapt the world to himself. Therefore, all progress depends on the unreasonable man." And the point here is that what we've laid out here is an unconventional way to build both performance and the hooks for a very different blended workforce, as we've talked about, an employee free agent blended workforce. That is not what organizations mostly are focused on these days as they try to be reasonable. The breakout strategy, the ability to start to redesign the business, is all about being unreasonable and choosing to pursue things which aren't part of the status quo approach and aren't the way we've always done things. So the real message here is this is probably an excellent time to start to become very unreasonable in terms of how you conduct yourself and the kinds of things that you're trying to drive into your business in terms of creating greater agility and adaptability for the future. I hope that you found that to be a thoughtful and thought-provoking presentation. I would be happy to share further thoughts with you if you are interested. You can reach me through LinkedIn, Facebook, and of course, wherever you are viewing this from, there's a comment box somewhere close by. You can drop a comment into me, and I'll see them all. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this. Take care. Bye-bye.